and it is directly facing, from its entry point, directly facing a large obelisk. Now, it really is one of the most openly hidden secrets that's known by all occultists and alchemists and or people who are researchers and who have studied that kind of symbolism in the past, who know that that is a design that originated in ancient Egypt. A dome facing an obelisk. It comes from the myth of Osiris, you know, the story of Osiris's evil brother Set murders him and chops him into 14 pieces and throws all the pieces into the Nile. And that was just very central to Egyptian belief. And his sister wife, the queen of magical skills, Isis, she goes up and down the banks of the Nile River, collects 13 of the pieces of Osiris, can't find the 14th piece, which is his missing male organ. But she assembles his body back together, just like we had 13 continents in this country that were assembled together to form one union. And she creates an obelisk, which then becomes magically representative of his male organ, and she magically impregnates herself. Well, Egypt built an entire magical, alchemical belief system around the dome and the obelisk as representing the ever-pregnant belly of Isis and the male organ of the god Osiris. And if you go through ancient Egypt, all of their most important religious edifices, including the largest religious area that was ever built, the Temple of Amun-Ra at Karnak. You go there, here's the dome temple of Isis, here's the obelisk of Osiris, and during a festival called Opet, what is it that happens? And I'm coming to a point here that's really important. The pharaoh, during the festival of Opet, would go inside this ever-pregnant belly of Isis, the dome of Isis. A raising of Osiris ceremony was conducted by the Egyptian magicians, the purpose of which was to draw forth the spirit of Osiris through the base of that obelisk, up through where it would magically emit into the belly over here of Isis. And as Pharaoh standing inside the belly of Isis, he is transmogrified. The spirit of Osiris enters him. He went in the temple as a man. He comes out. He is a god. He is Osiris in flesh, which is also known as Horus, the son of Osiris. And this way, Egypt knows they have divine representation in the leader of their country. Now fast forward to our day. At the Vatican, you have a dome facing an obelisk. And by the way, that obelisk was taken from the city of Heliopolis, the ancient city of On in the Bible, where it was dedicated to the god Osiris. It is literally one of the obelisks of Osiris, was removed there and eventually was put into the middle of St. Peter's Square there. But now you come to the United States. You have a dome. When the founders were building this country, they actually first called it Rome. They were designing it, if you will, after that same ancient pattern from both Egypt and the Vatican. And now, here's the point that's really important. When you talk about occultists and what they believe, and you look at Washington, the dome, and this giant obelisk known as the Washington Monument, the largest of its kind in the world, built by Freemasons in honor of George Washington. It's 6,666 inches high. It's 666 inches wide along each of the perimeters. It's based on a magic square. I mean, it's just a tremendous amount of occultism. But here's what I was told by a U.S. senator. I was doing his radio show. I won't name his name, but I can verify this. And he told me on his show, he said, yes, but were you aware that just what they did in Egypt is what they still do in Washington, D.C., that at the inauguration of every United States president, the raising of Osiris ceremony is conducted by these modern Egyptian magicians in the House of the Temple, the Herodome, right over by the White House, the headquarters of Scottish Rite Freemasonry, for the purpose of what? Mystically instilling the god Osiris in our U.S. presidents? I can't imagine Ronald Reagan would have been interested in that. But they're doing it because they're looking forward to the day when that God is actually going to return and enthrone himself as the leader of this country. I went to the Herodome. I set this up. My wife went with me, Nita, who could verify this. We went inside on a private tour, and I asked the 33rd degree Freemasons, I said, is that true? And they wouldn't answer that question. They answered every other question. They wouldn't say yes or no to whether they actually conduct that ancient Egyptian ceremony in Washington, D.C. at the inauguration of every U.S. president who's standing over there in the dome of Isis, the Temple Dome, the U.S. Capitol Dome. Anybody can take a tour, walk inside, and look up into her underside belly. What do you see? The apotheosis of George Washington. George Washington becoming a god. This is a very a powerful belief system, but if you couple it with the prophecies on the Great Seal, yes, Gary, 2012, they believe something happened. They believe something may culminate in 2016. They're looking forward to the fulfillment of that prophecy that is on the Great Seal. Henry Wallace, the 33rd Vice President of the United States, wrote extensively how he, Roosevelt, who was responsible for putting the Great Seal on the U.S. dollar bill, they believed that this was a prophecy about the coming of the God of Freemasonry, and on his arrival, the United States would rise up and become the global leader of the New World Order. They believed in those prophecies, and I bet the average American doesn't know they're carrying in their wallet and they're carrying in their purse. More often than they have the Bible on their person, they're carrying a prophecy about the coming of who we would call the Antichrist, because, as you know, Apollo, which is prophesied to come on the Great Seal, is the same spirit identified in the New Testament as the spirit that will fill the Antichrist, the man of sin.